Godzilla. I need this. I don't know where I'd put it, but it's been 5 years of waiting.
Alright, I'm back from Godzilla King of the Monsters, now in theaters everywhere, and I just finished writing up my review. I'm not doing a non-spoiler, I'm just jumping right into the action here. It's late enough in the review game as it is already, so this is strictly spoiler stuff, so be warned. So it was a lot to take in, and unfortunately I have extremely mixed feelings about this. I really am polarized between the two sides of me, the side that loves everything to do with Godzilla, and the side that appreciates good storytelling. They shouldn't necessarily have to be at odds, but unfortunately, in this case, they are. First off, I only ever watched the first trailer before I went in to see this movie. After having got out and seen the movie, I can say that the trailers did reveal a lot. There were still aspects about the kaiju that weren't revealed in the trailer. I found the movie was very faithful to the monsters. Its vision of who these characters, these kaiju are, was very clear. I genuinely smiled when I first saw Rodan appear. I never realized how much I appreciated Rodan until I saw him in this movie. Mothra, usually very elegant and majestic, is an untamed animal here. Even Mothra can be unexpected and frightening at times. I feel that the director maintained a sense of faithfulness to these giant monsters. They found ways to make these four kaiju original in all new ways while still being faithful to the original source material. Undoubtedly, Legendary felt confident in making some changes and adjustments and adding new features to these monsters based on the reception that Shin Godzilla got whenever TOHO pretty much overhauled Godzilla and recreated him. They figured, hey, if TOHO can do that and get away with it, we can do smaller tweaks to these characters and still make them who they are. And I think they pulled it off really well. But we'll get more in depth with the changes in a little while. So, jumping into where the critics come in here. The critics are in their right to judge this movie the way they are. There's some pretty terrible acting in this movie. There was one character, I don't even know what his name was. It's a guy, he's got like whitish hair. Every time I saw him on screen, I had to stop and say, is this really happening? Did they really hire this guy? Why is he in this movie? Luckily, he's just a supporting character. He wasn't in there too much. There was also fumbling monarch assistant or spokesman. He didn't fit the tone of the film either. The film had this dark vibe and tone, but at the same time, it was very self-aware that it was a sci-fi giant monster movie, so then it would stop and make fun of itself. And I don't know if that was the film studio, if that was just the way it was written to begin with. But if you're planning on drawing crowds in who already embrace this stuff, you don't have to become self-conscious and then make fun of yourself, make fun of the subject, because the audience already accepts it. It's not like you have to laugh it off and say, oh yeah, giant monsters, what are the odds that these would really exist? You don't have to say anything like that because the audience is already convinced of this stuff. We're fans, that's why we're going to see the stuff, but no, you gotta stop and make fun of them. So yeah, there is a tone. You get the sense, the vision of the director and the project of the film itself. But at times it backs down on itself. It's not ready to be fully committed to being a drama about giant monsters. The writing, the exposition is completely unnecessary at some points. You literally have exposition about how caterpillars metamorphose into butterflies. That's something we learned in elementary school, and yet the film felt like it had to explain that there's different stages of a caterpillar's life to the audience. They could have just said Mothra's a caterpillar, and then people thought, oh, well, you know, caterpillars become butterflies. But in regards to this movie being uncomfortable to be what it is, there's even a line of dialogue where you meet Rodan, and one of the main characters says, oh, do you have a name for this guy too? Yes, Rodan, but you couldn't just find a better way to write that in there? Like you had to laugh it off or put it in there for jokes? Do you think introducing another monster at this point in the movie would somehow lose the audience, so you have to make a joke out of it? Why was that necessary? And there's jokes throughout this movie, and almost none of them land. It's not like MCU Marvel Cinematic Universe non-stop comedy. There is definitely a lot of times where there are no jokes. And that's good, because like I said, the jokes suck in this movie. The jokes themselves are just going to hurt the film in the long run because they're not worth it. They're not worth taking up the pace or taking you out of the tone of the movie. There's actually this one chilling moment in an elevator scene where Millie Bobby Brown's character, Millie Bobby Brown steals the show with this. She is definitely the best actor in the entire movie here. And she's in an elevator scene with the main villain, who I don't even know who his name is. I don't know if he even has a name. He's just the bad guy. But the bad guy does this. And the way he pulled that off was so chilling. But then the script says, well, no, we got to throw a joke in right now after that. So then we have Millie Bobby Brown flip off the camera. And there's nothing wrong with what she did there. It's just the way the script was written. Another complaint I have about Millie Bobby Brown's character is, while she's the kid of the movie, there's one part that I didn't buy into it, where she discovers that her mother is the villain, and she's emotionally torn up about it, and she looks like she's a teenager, you know, and she could probably fight her mom over what she's doing and say, hey, no, you can't do this, Mom, you're crazy. But she's just like, no, go ahead, destroy the world, and I'll just hate you forever. That's the kind of response she gives. She doesn't say that, but it's like, come on, Millie Bobby Brown's character is definitely old enough to at least fight her mom off for what she believes in. It's just the way the characters are written. The mother, by the time she has a change of heart, I didn't care anymore. I thought, she needs to die. She's evil. She needs to die. And she tries to have a redeeming arc where she becomes a good mother again by running to her daughter's rescue. And I don't care if she ran after 100 daughters. She sentenced millions of people to their death. I don't care if she saves a whole neighborhood full of daughters. It's like, no, you can't redeem yourself. You need to die. I was waiting for her to die the whole film. And I guess she dies. They don't actually show her dying. It's just, she just happens to be in the city that gets leveled, but at least she was off the screen at that point. At no point did any of the human drama come even close to what Godzilla 2014 had when Bryan Cranston's character in the beginning saw his wife trapped on the other side of the door. That was much more in depth than anything this film had to offer. This movie even dropped the F-bomb at one point, and they wasted it. The F-bomb just kind of casually thrown out there, and I just wish it was in a more passionate moment. I know the character is supposed to be overwhelmed, and he's like, oh, F something or whatever, and I just thought, no, I needed to see somebody say that when they were crying or whenever they're screaming out in agony or something. Well, that's a waste of the F-bomb. And then they try to work their way around using the F-bomb again later, where they talk about King Ghidorah showing up to Rodan to either feed, fight, or F. And I was like, I don't want to imagine King Ghidorah dominating Rodan. Like, I can't unsee that in my head. Like, they didn't even show it, but just the idea, they threw that idea out there. And now I know that they don't understand how the monsters work, but they can look at it and be like, yo, one's a dragon and one's a dinosaur. They're not going to... And finally, on the subject of writing, this film is definitely Godzilla's film. It reminds me of most foreign films that I've ever seen, where once the climax is over, the movie just ends. There's no human resolution. And I know a lot of people were complaining about they didn't want human characters even in this movie to begin with. But here, after we spend this whole movie, this family drama dynamic, Godzilla wins the day, they get on a plane, take off, we don't get to see the follow up with them, have any epilogue, nothing. They're just gone. I've seen so many martial arts movies like that end where the villain gets killed and then it's just end credits. There's nobody returning home to be heroes or whatever. I mean, Godzilla 2014 had some resolution. People reuniting, families reuniting at the stadium. Godzilla returned to the ocean with a question mark whether or not he's a hero. And this movie is just like, oh, well, Godzilla won. We don't need to know what else happens here. A lot of people didn't want human drama anyways. They just want to shut their mind off and have monster actions. So let's dive into that in more detail right now. So the CGI, how's this monster action presented? CGI was good. It was pretty great at some points too, but I guess after 5 years of waiting from 2014, I was expecting some daylight fight scenes, especially since Kong Skull Island had some of that daylight action of King Kong just visible. Here, there's a little bit of a daylight action scene, but it's in the middle of the Antarctica, and it's like a snowstorm covering them up, and then there's underwater scenes, and there's nighttime scenes, and that's it. There's a few evening scenes, I guess. But I was ready for more. A closer up, clearer look, but maybe next time.